Okay, live.
Hello.
Andrew, do you want to tell the assembly about your hoodie?
I shall. So I am a lifelong Aston Villa supporter. I went to my first game at 9 years old. I was a fan even before that. Um, so we wanted to talk today about the shameful, shameful decision to ban Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from the upcoming Europa League match against Aston Villa.
Yeah,
Um,
go
yeah,
on.
go for it.
Well, I actually have an idea because you and I have both been doing quite a lot of TV commentary this morning, with more coming up later as well. I thought it'd be quite fun. I mean, I've been so demoralised and incensed by the sheer idiocy and disingenuous approach to this whole debate. I thought that how about I play the idiot and you and you play the person of sound mind, so I can put to you the arguments that I've been hearing all morning, and then you can knock them down one by one. Does that
Sounds
sound?
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay. So first of all, Andrew, um, isn't it right that the police are just trying to keep British people safe? This is, they're just football hooligans coming over from Israel trying to cause trouble, and Celtic and other fans have been banned from previous matches in the past to maintain public order. Isn't that what's going on here? Why are you making this all about anti-Semitism?
Well, the bottom line here is that Maccabi fans are no better or worse than any other club. They don't have a particular reputation for extremism. And the one incident that everyone continually refers to is Amsterdam, where, yes, they did sing some unpleasant chants, but in Hebrew. So I very much doubt that anyone in Amsterdam was particularly offended by that. And we know for a fact that was a tiny minority of fans. So, first of all, if we're going to talk about banning things because of a minority misbehaving, then straight away the Palestine marches in London should be gone, no question, due to the amount of anti-Semitism and chants like Chai Bar Yahud that we've seen over the last 2 years. So if that's the argument, then that's the end of that. But the second point is that we know from the court transcripts of Amsterdam that this was a calculated and organised pogrom. There was a WhatsApp group with 900 members in it, and they were bussed in from across the Netherlands. It was coordinated days before there was even a Maccabi Tel Aviv fan in Amsterdam, and then they launched what they called, in their own words, a Jew hunt of, and I quote, cancer Jews. So the idea that Maccabi is somehow at fault for this is ludicrous. It's victim blaming. It's, as always, a complete inversion of the truth. Maccabi Tel Aviv have the right to play in Europe. Their fans have the right to see them. It's as simple as that.
Okay, I haven't got the strength to play the role of idiot anymore. You're right. You win. I mean, even John Sopel, he tweeted. He's not normally particularly sound on these things, but he tweeted earlier, the optics of the Villa ban are truly appalling. How can it be that there's enough policing every weekend to maintain public safety when tens of thousands of pro-Palestinian supporters gather, but there isn't when it's maybe 1,000 Maccabi fans on one night and an Israeli club is playing in Britain? I mean, the double standards really are just so obvious, aren't they?
They are. And look, it's not going to be a matter of Villa fans fighting Maccabi fans. Like, Villa don't have an aggressive fan base. They don't have a violent. They're not like Millwall or Cardiff, who've got firms that travel around. I've been to more Villa games than I can count in the last couple of years. I've never seen any violence whatsoever, including away days in Europe in Rotterdam. So that's bizarre. But I think what's happened is the police have got some intelligence that there's going to be a repeat of what happened in Amsterdam. And rather than take those thugs head on and protect the Maccabi fans, they've made it a decision that it's actually just much easier just to get rid of the problem. And that's the really concerning thing for me, is that I think they've been confronted by the mob, and as a result, they've backed down rather than stand up to them. And it's not only Maccabi fans, but of course it's British Jews as well who are going to feel the impact of this. And I've been really hesitant all morning because I've been all over the TV representing the Jewish Villains, which is the Aston Villa Jewish Supporters Club. And they were kind enough to ask me to be their honorary president as a non-Jew, because I've been an ally for the community over the last couple of years. So I hesitate to speak on behalf of the British Jewish community, but I can certainly repeat what my friends have said to me. And that's that this decision goes far beyond just a football team based in Tel Aviv and directly impacts their life and them feeling safe when they go to football matches.
And your dog obviously has strong feelings about it as well.
She does, yeah.
Can I ask something, Andrew? Because we had a conversation last week, I think it was, where I mentioned policing, and I talked about how at a pro-Palestine protest, some counter-protesters had been arrested because they were holding up a sign saying "Stand up for Britain's Jews," and that'd been enough to get them arrested for their own safety. Do you see this, with the exclusion of Israeli fans for their own safety, as different to that example?
Yeah, I do. I do. I think, they have. First of all, let's talk about the process of how this works. So you have the security advisory group who make the decision on this. It's not the police who make the decision. The security advisory group is headed up by the local council.
Right.
So it's their letterhead that this goes out on, based on various consultations. And I spoke to Nicky Campbell this morning on Radio 5 Live. He had a guest on who ran the local mosque just next to the Trinity Road at Aston Villa, who signed the petition about not allowing genocidal fans to come to the UK. So straight away, his position is very clear. He was a member of the SAG and consulted with them on the decision they made. The local MP, of course, is a Gaza MP. He would have had input into this. The council there is quite heavily, Muslim dominated. And so I wonder really how much this decision is made based on police advice and how much it's made on a very, very biased civic organisation within that area of Birmingham itself. That gives me huge concern. And I wonder how many Jewish Brits were consulted before they issued their security direction as well.
So are you saying that this wasn't a police decision? It was a civil decision?
Yeah, it's a civil decision in terms of owning it. The police have suggested in their press release that they agree with the decision, so the police certainly have some culpability there.
Okay.
We don't know what evidence or intelligence the police have collected on this, right? Because, for example, in Amsterdam, the WhatsApp group was infiltrated by the Dutch police who knew about this before it happened and yet did nothing. And Imshin on Twitter was saying that actually there were police recorded saying they supported the pogrom rather than were there to protect the Jewish community. Now, the Jewish football fans. Now, I'm not saying at all that that's what West Midlands police are doing, but they will have good intelligence on the likely threat. They will have looked at some of these jihadi, some of these extremist, pro-Palestinian, like Palestine Action, their Telegram groups, their WhatsApp groups. So they will have intelligence. But the big question here is, do you stand up to the threat or do you back down and swerve it? And quite aside from a very, very biased local council, I think the police are swerving this decision rather than doing what they should do, which is get mutual aid for other forces, pack Aston with police. And if any of these thugs do come and attack Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, they should be getting it back 10 times over.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth, some of the questioning that I've been subjected to on telly this morning really have counted this as if it's purely a public order issue that began today. And actually, this has a long history. I mean, if we go back, so the draw was on August the 29th when the Europa League drew Villa against Maccabi Tel Aviv. Within days, protests were being planned in Birmingham. And then by September the 16th, which is less than a month later, Ayub Khan, who's the MP for Birmingham Perry Barr, in whose constituency Villa Park is located, and he is one of the Gaza independents. He started
MP for Khan Yunis.
For Khan Yunis, yeah. He launched a petition to stop the Israeli team coming over, not for the fear that their fans may contain some hooligans, but because, so far as I can see, they're from Israel. And this was the beginning of, frankly, the incitement taking place in an area where, let's not forget, I'm afraid to say, to have to bring this up, but 29% of the population there are Muslim in that area. Which, again, I'm not saying that Muslims are bad, but there's a lot of extremism, much more in the Muslim community than there is outside of it. And one example of this was the local imam, a man called Asrar Rashid. There's a video of him that's been doing the rounds. And he said, and I quote, "We will not show mercy to Maccabi Tel Aviv fans travelling to Birmingham for the Aston Villa FC match." So it's this sort of stuff, presumably, that the police would have picked up on that caused them to be afraid. But the thing is that presenting this as simply a public duty to protect Britain from thuggish Israelis coming over, genocidal Israelis fresh from killing the Gazans, they're going to come and wreak havoc in Britain as well, is not just disingenuous, it's an inversion of the criminal and the victim here.
And that's been the story for 2 years.
Yeah,
that is literally their playbook. It's not even a secret that that's how they operate. They go on a genocidal rampage. in Israel, and then decide, even before Israel's responded, that they're on the wrong end of a genocide. And I think we should start referring to that openly as the genocide hoax, because that's literally what it is. The inversion, Darvo, reverse victim offender um, domestic abuse theory, that is absolutely what they do. They commit the crime and then they immediately turn around and accuse the Israelis of doing that. And look, bottom line here is, if there is a gang of thugs who want to hunt Jews in Birmingham, the answer is not to stop the Jews being there, but it's to protect the Jews properly. And that's what this utterly, completely boils down to. And as a taxpayer, I would happily see money thrown at this to make sure that anyone who comes to the UK for a football game, be they British, Israeli, Spanish, or Italian, or French, are protected to the correct level. If their fans don't present a threat, which we know Maccabi don't, they're not a violent team traditionally.
That's right. And, another tweet that I came across, David Patrikarakos tweeted, Keir Starmer must understand that this is no longer about football. The question facing him is simple. Who runs Britain's second city, the government or sectarian Islamists? His answer will shape our future. That's stark, but that's right, isn't it? Because we've been facing, since the last general election, when Keir Starmer came to power, the debacle then, there was this group called the Muslim Vote, which was not a political party. It was simply a campaign group seeking to get pro-Gaza MPs into power by telling Muslim constituents across Britain who to vote for tactically in order to enable that to happen. And they were largely responsible for the success of those 5 pro-Gaza MPs for various parts of Gaza, that now sit in the House of Commons. And let's not forget that those campaigns were run on the back of thuggery and intimidation. You have people like Jess Phillips and Shabana Mahmood and others giving speeches on election night saying that it was the worst campaign they've ever had to fight, because people they've had their tires slashed, their supporters were yelled at, abused. I can't remember who it was. It was the Shadow Jonathan Ashworth, wasn't it?
Ashworth, yeah, Leicester South. Yeah,
he had to hide. He had to hide in the church, didn't he? Wasn't that him? He had to take refuge in the church from the Gaza mob in his constituency, and eventually lost his seat. Wes Streeting almost lost his seat. There was a Dirty Tricks campaign with an AI video of him saying "fuck the Palestinians" or something like that, which he hadn't said, which was being circulated. So there was digital dirty tricks, but there was actual thuggery and intimidation on the streets, helping to buoy these 5 Gaza MPs to power. And that clearly will only have emboldened them and their movement. And we now see this again, this combination of street thuggery from the likes of our Imam Asrar Rashid saying he won't show mercy to Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, that kind of intimidation, plus the Gaza MP, launching a petition and in Parliament placing pressure on the authorities to ban Jews from Birmingham. And it seems to be bearing fruit. And with this capitulation, it's only going to make the other side feel, this combination of political force and street force, that the next target is up for grabs. What's going to be next? Where's the boots going to fall next? And it's only going to come further and further towards marginalising Jews from public life, and eventually taking more of a grip on the levers of power in Britain, which will be pulled against the majority, not just against the Jews.
Yeah, and this does feel like a tipping point moment, doesn't it? This does feel actually far more pivotal than just a football match. And I was thinking this just last night when the news started trickling in about the football game. We saw 2 weeks ago the attempted slaughter in a synagogue in Manchester, and had the police not reacted so quickly and the security guards been so brave, that could have been absolutely catastrophic. I mean, it was catastrophic anyway, but it could have been a mass casualty event. This guy absolutely had the intention to get in there and kill as many Jews as he could before Manchester police shot him. That should have been the real moment. That's when they should have stepped up. Instead, we have this poxy 10 million that the government's announced as a token effort to try and reassure the Jewish community. But this feels like another pivotal moment. Like, are we going to bow to this thuggish, Islamist, propaganda-driven, lie-driven mob, or are we going to stand up for British values where everyone's welcome and we have a society that wants to be harmonious and get along? And that's the really critical thing here. We've had a sort of very soft launch of this wave with after the Manchester attacks. Like, this is a moment where we can really put our foot down and say, no, this is not what we do as a country. This is not how we behave. And I'm going to be watching like a hawk over the next 24, 48 hours to see if they reverse this decision and make the correct move and allow Maccabi fans to come and watch their team hopefully lose.
Exactly. I mean, I think the problem has been that the authorities, whether it's the government, whether it's the police, whether it's local councils, whether it's universities, anywhere that's experiencing an insurgency and a challenge on the basis of Islamism, and let's call it what it is, racism, racist Islam, we have an inability as a country to say no, thus far and no further. Here is the line. No further. You're not coming any further. We haven't done the Gandalf, you shall not pass. We haven't done that. Instead, we've said, surely they're only concerned about the deaths of children at the hands of Jews. Surely they're not anti-Semitic. Maybe a few bad apples, but these marches to our capitals, surely free speech should be allowed. Surely that Oxford kid who's been chanting about putting Zionists in the ground, surely he should be allowed to do it because it's free speech. And we've been so reluctant to say no. At some point, we've got to be intolerant towards intolerance, otherwise we'll lose our own tolerance. We've been so reluctant to do that we're giving in again and again. And meanwhile, the hordes of Mordor are advancing step by step, to continue the Lord of the Rings metaphor, advancing step by step and threatening to take over our society from within. This is coming from within our societies, and we brought it upon ourselves, and we're not stopping it.
If you've been enjoying the conversation so far, don't panic. To catch the rest of the episode, just head over to our Substack at thebrinkpodcast.co.uk. And don't forget to grab a copy of my brand new book, Never Again: How the West Betrayed the Jews and Itself, in all good bookshops now.